Bitcoin continues to pump, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit worried. In today's video, we'll be going over the recent price action of Bitcoin. We'll also be going over some altcoins that exploded like crazy overnight, and we'll touch on the tariff developments. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. To change things up a little, let's talk about the altcoins that pumped. First of all, we have Sui seeing an absolutely massive pump. As we can see from the low all the way down to $2 just a couple days ago, Sui is now all the way up here, making its way to $4. Now, why did this altcoin pump? Well, we had some pretty interesting news that came out. Sui partnered with Xportal to offer a MasterCard, streamlining the Sui token spending via popular digital payment platforms and enhancing crypto utility. Very bullish, being able to spend your Sui token with MasterCard. Then their DeFi ecosystem also saw continued growth, as we saw a massive surge to $1.46 billion in total value locked, indicating, of course, rising user engagement and overall activity. So this would have been an insane token to trade. I didn't actually get to trade this one, but I did get to trade this token called Layer 0, or ZRO as we call it. From the bottom here, we also saw a pretty interesting surge, almost 10% up, and we traded this in my VIP community. Now, if you want access to my free Telegram channel where I talk about these kinds of setups, you'll have the link down below, completely free. You can join if you want. And we touch on these kinds of tokens. Sometimes we're going ahead and trading these tokens. Fair warning though, for you to actually be able to copy my trades for free, you do have to sign up with my exchange link, but I just thought I would let you know ahead of time. My free Telegram is down below. So we did see some pumps with altcoins, but it is ultimately still Bitcoin season. Back to the Bitcoin dominance chart. I know some of you probably get annoyed with this talk, but Bitcoin dominance continues to increase whether or not Bitcoin goes up or down. Now, speaking of Bitcoin specifically, we are seeing a very nice pump. Every single time that we've been wicking down over the past few days, we've been holding this 91.8K level as support. And now at the time of recording this video, Bitcoin is sitting right around $94,500. And on the day, we made it all the way up to 95K. Now, the level that you really want to pay attention to that could potentially act as resistance would be all the way up here, just below $96,000, give or take 96K. So the reason why this is important is because we held this level as support multiple times before. And so if we made it above here and held it as support, it would ultimately flip us fully bullish. Right now, what's extremely positive to see for Bitcoin is that we are holding the 91.8K level as support, which, as discussed, is the bottom of this original range before we went ahead and put in that new all-time high. The other key aspect here is that we are still comfortably above the bull market support band, holding it as support. This is what you want to see for continued upside for Bitcoin. So what are my main concerns here? Well, we have three of them. The first one, which is a pretty minor one, stocks are red for pre-market. As we can see here, the Dow Jones futures is down about 0.5%, the S&P 500 down about 0.2%, and the NASDAQ down about 0.3%. This isn't necessarily a cause for concern, but we are seeing stocks still struggling below their 200-day moving average, which is a very important level for us to flip if stocks want to go ahead and move higher. But as you know on the channel, we've been covering Bitcoin, and it has been outperforming stocks over the past few days and even weeks. So this is some very interesting price action to see, especially with us holding 91.8K as support. Now, if you want to trade this price action, you have to sign up with the first link in my description down below, bringing you directly to Weeks, one of the top exchanges that I've been using in this industry, and I've even tested their 20% deposit bonus. That means that I deposited $10,000 into my Weeks account, as you can see down here, and I got $2,000 back for free for trading. It's the first link in my description down below, and all you really need is an email and a password to sign up, and that's it. You're in and you're eligible for this bonus. Now, a more significant reason why I'm a little bit worried about the tariff stuff is, to put it simply, this. Trump, we met with China. The Chinese president, no. Trump, yes. The Chinese president, no, that never happened. Trump, yep. And then markets were up 2.5% after this. This is a cause for concern. Both leaders are saying different things. In yesterday's video, I showed you footage of Trump saying that they're talking to China every single day. Meanwhile, just 8 minutes ago, as I'm recording this video, this news came out of China saying that the US is not having any talks on tariffs. The US should stop creating confusion coming directly from the Chinese embassy. So I'm honestly not sure what to believe, but markets are still relatively uncertain. Now, the nice thing to see here is that we've always talked about Bitcoin as a potential hedge against uncertainty, and especially with gold rising and Bitcoin being that digital gold, this was the narrative that we were talking about. Now, I still think that it operates a little bit more like a leveraged tech stock, but with this recent price action, it is starting to look a little bit more promising. Only time will tell, and I don't want to get excited about this whole decoupling effect. I know that some of you are making fun of me in my last video calling it decoupling. But anyways, we'll have to see how this Bitcoin price action develops. But ultimately, it really is holding up well, and we cannot ignore the facts. As you can see here, holding 91.8K as support, it seems like people are flocking to Bitcoin. Now, I do have some evidence to suggest that this is still not retail, and it's mainly institutions that are fueling this Bitcoin bid. And if we go over that, we can see, for example, that the social risk is still very, very low, telling us that retail is still very much not here. Now, another quick chart that I want to go over just briefly is the unemployment rate. The reason I'm bringing this up is because we can observe a little bit of an uptrend here, and we'll have to see when the next point of data comes out. I believe it will be on May 2nd for the month of April. And if the unemployment rate continues to rise, we could see a sharp decline in these prices. So that's something you have to keep in mind. The Bitcoin spot ETFs, however, are still seeing some very significant inflows. Near the end of February and in the beginning of April, we saw significant outflows, but now we are starting to see some pretty sizable inflows. 400 million on April 21st, around 900 million on April 22nd, another 900 million on April 23rd, and on April 24th, almost $500 million. So these are some very nice inflows to see for Bitcoin, and we'll have to see if we can continue this streak. Now, let me get to the ultimate sign of concern here, and that is looking at the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map. You might be asking, why am I worried? Bitcoin continues to rip higher. And yes, I love that from a spot perspective. As I shared on the channel, I bought a lot of Bitcoin around 75K, and I also bought some more around the 80K region. But what we can see here on the 30-day time frame for the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map is that depending on price action, there will be a ton more long liquidations than shorts. As we can see here, this chart tells us exactly that. So if Bitcoin were to hypothetically go all the way back down to the 82K region, which isn't that far off, and it was a previous area of support over here on this chart, we would liquidate around $14 billion of longs. Yes, 14 billion. Now, if Bitcoin rises all the way up to $104,000, which is very close to approaching the all-time high, there would only be around $1.5 billion in liquidations for those shorts. So just from personal trading experience here, when the market shifts like this, usually the herd does get wrecked. And right now, the herd is very much longing Bitcoin. I'm a little bit scared because when there's a discrepancy like this, it usually doesn't end up being pretty. So make sure that you're cautious if you're longing Bitcoin. I will not just be a full bull telling you that you should just be max long, because this tells me otherwise, and we could be in for a very scary liquidation event. But hey, in the long term, at least $1 million per Bitcoin is inevitable, right? We had Jim Cramer that came out and said, there is absolutely no way that Bitcoin goes above 1 million US dollars. I just don't see it happening. Historically, if you bet against what this guy says, you'll be in some nice profits. All jokes aside here, this is why we keep on accumulating Bitcoin in our spot portfolio. As I said, accumulating in those lower levels has really started to pay off. Despite the fact that I'm a little bit worried about the whole leverage situation, it's still good to dollar cost average into Bitcoin over the long term. And if you want to do this, you can do so with me on Weeks. Again, that's the first link in my description down below. They also have some insane bonuses depending on how much you trade and depending on how much you deposit. My conviction is still there in the long term. I do think that in our lifetime, we will be seeing a $1 million Bitcoin, which is why I keep on accumulating. Now, just quickly before we wrap up this video looking at the Bitcoin chart, There is nothing that says this is bearish outside of the leveraged liquidations, which could happen perhaps on an illiquid weekend. So make sure you're keeping your eyes on that. Right now, as I record this video, it's Friday. Usually weekends are not the best time to trade because, as we know, the market makers can really get us wrecked in that kind of illiquid environment. In the short term, Bitcoin is very safe so long as we can hold 91.8K as support. I'll remind you again why it's so important. This was where we held support multiple times as Bitcoin went ahead and put in that new all-time high around $109,000. And just to reiterate, it is still my base case that Bitcoin will be putting in a new all-time high this year. And that sums up today's quick video. Both the US and China still are not negotiating their tariffs, or at least it seems to be. Trump says they are, but the Chinese president says otherwise. In the meantime, with all this uncertainty, Bitcoin does continue to pump, now approaching a crucial level around $96,000. If we can hold 96K as support, I would be very confident that Bitcoin would go ahead and move much higher. There's a few more days to the weekly close. Let's see how things develop, and I'll make sure to keep you updated in my next video. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.